Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Pinnecoose Hay Farm. Today I'm over on the northeast corner of the property, and this is actually a small area of our farm that was carved out and was set aside for my brother so he could have a trailer put on here and a place for him to live with and grow with his family. When he was coming out of high school, he kind of needed a place to live, and my dad was able to cut a little piece of the property away that we had. And this is actually the area of the farm that I grew up on. This is on this little northeast corner is where actually my dad had a single wide trailer. We had a single wide trailer, and kind of out here, if you guys can see by this power pole, there used to actually be a well kind of right where this shipping container is. This well actually was one of the old-fashioned ones with the crank on it and the bucket, and that was kind of the way to get water. And it's crazy to think this is all within one generation. You know, that's how we grew up, in a single wide trailer. There was myself, my three brothers, my mom, my dad, and we lived on this corner of this property. On the other side, where you guys usually see me come out of the house, that's actually my grandmother's house. So that's where his mom had established her residence, and then him being the son, he kind of moved over here. He also at the time asked for a piece of land from our Native American tribe to use for agricultural purposes, so they call that an agricultural assignment, and he was granted that. So in addition to the house that was over there, the trailer that's here, he was also allowed to utilize about 77 acres of farmland. And so that's kind of what you see here. This fence line is actually the boundary, the eastern boundary of ours, and then that house belongs to somebody else there. But you know, this is kind of the east side of the property here, and then this is what we call field 4. This is a newly established field that'll be coming into production this year. But back to this. So this fence line here is kind of what divides the agricultural assignment that I have with the home assignment that's here. Again, this is my brother's trailer now, and he was able to put this here because the utility lines that came off of that electric pole there, and then there's some water that was put in later on, that all kind of feeds into that. So it was a good place to put a house for him. But where we live is actually over in my grandma's house, and that's over on the northwest side of the property. This right here is my grandma's house. So this is the house that was already here when we were living on the northeast side of the property. This house has gone over quite a couple of renovations, at least. The porch and overhangs, the metal ceiling was put in not too long ago. But this house and this lawn brings back a lot of memories. I remember family standing out here. We had a couple family reunions that were out here, and my grandpa and all the boys would take a picture, then all the ladies took a picture, the kids took a picture. It was kind of a time, I think, when we had 4 generations that were kind of all here. And it's nice to think that, you know, everyone came out of this house, you know, and everyone celebrated out of this house. This was kind of the only house that we had as kind of a family growing up. My dad was pretty proud of, you know, the things, just having the farm, and this was our farmhouse, and you know, we always just kind of kept things simple. We don't overcomplicate the inside, over designing anything. Where I am right now is the intersection of 3 of my big fields. Over here is field 1, again right off the side of the barn. Field 3 is right here. Field 2 is kind of tucked away on the other side of that ditch as it makes that turn there. So field 3, field 1, and then right here is field 5 going into field 4, which once it's all grown and established, I'll just call all this one field, going all the way down, following that pivot and down to the south side of the property. At that time, that will become my biggest field on the property, and I'm kind of anxious to see what comes through this year. 2024 should be pretty good for us in terms of bales, productivity, tonnage per acre, all that stuff should be good. But the reason I wanted to come up here and talk about this intersection is because this is kind of, before I got here, this was kind of the area where I guess our last stand was as a family. I think it was down just my mother and one of my brothers that were left trying to farm this land. And it was kind of all that was left to do, because it was walking distance to the barn. So coming out here, irrigate field 1, irrigate field 3. And that was kind of it. I mean, to be honest, field 1 and field 3 were about all there was to irrigate, or that was being irrigated toward the end of it. Everything else on the property looked like it had been not irrigated anywhere from 4 to 6 years previous to me getting here. These 2 fields actually look like they were probably irrigated within the last 2 years when I got here. But all the ground out here was just gray, kind of that, it looked like a black and white photo is what it looked like. It's like brown, grays. Nothing was really coming off the dirt. But you could tell there was something in there. So when I came out here, I started kind of just putting water. The first year I just put water down, see what was growing. We discovered that it was mostly smooth brome. And that's fine because there was a market for that, I discovered. But now I've overseeded Timothy into there. I've overseeded orchard grass as well too. So it's all, again, just grasses, because that's what all customers that I deal with want. Just grass. But putting the water on here, getting it up and running, that was a little tricky. First year I didn't even have the equipment to do much of anything. I turned on the head gates and used a shovel. Some of the older ways that my dad used to irrigate was with tarps and bars, and that's the same system I used when I was out here. So backing water up, letting it overflow, flood irrigation, that was our thing. So that's kind of what I learned, what I knew. It worked. You know, I got to at least analyze what was in the field. And then the following year was when we actually started, I guess, ditching, make the ditches a little stronger. I got more tarps and bars, and that's when I started utilizing probably half of the property. And then toward the end, we had put graded pipes on the backside, and you know, for being 3 years in, I'm pretty proud of how far we've come. And now we're going into the 4th year, and as we go into the 4th year, we now have the pivot up, and that's going to be game changing going into year 4. It took all of year 3 to do it, which is why we didn't have much of anything growing during year 3. We didn't have any irrigation on, and I had plowed up all the flood ditches to make way for production land, and then we seeded, fertilized, aerated, all that stuff in preparation. But you know, it was supposed to be done in April, end of April, and it just never really got done till about 3/4 of the way through August. But a lot of times I come out here and I just look, and you can kind of see the pivot bridge right here. It's pretty cool. I never knew about pivot bridges. And then there's one crossing around that ditch right there. And as the pivot makes its way here, it crosses this ditch, and then it crosses again on that ditch. So I think we have 17 bridges that the pivots have to use in order to make their full circles for both pivots. But I always think back to how, you know, this place started, how it was when it was me and my dad and my mom. We used to irrigate out here. We just divide up the work. Dad would take like the far side, mom would take this side. Maybe I'd be closer to the house. We'd all do like 2 or 3 fields, maybe 2 settings in each field, change it every 12 hours, and then come back out in the evening, change them again. And that's how we did it from May through August. You know, and we were able to get 2, sometimes 3 cuts out of that. So, you know, I'm very humbled by the way I was brought up. Now that I'm by myself, kind of doing this on my own, I want to make sure that I utilize technology so I don't burn myself out. But this little area here is so important to me, holds a lot of history. And even this area that's right here, this actually used to be a stock pond for our horses. And just this past year, there was a guy with had the heavy equipment came through, and he was able to bulldoze most of this. And we'll work on it again probably another time or 2 next year. But for now, it's good enough for what I need. All the ditches are plowed up. Everything's flattened out. We seeded in the fall, and we'll seed again in the spring, fertilize, aerate again. And it's going to be a good year, guys. So wanted to give you guys kind of a brief update on the origin of the farm, where we came from. I'm really excited about it. And like I said, I'm nobody special in terms of what I'm doing. I don't even know if what I'm really creating is entertaining. I create what I do just to kind of give my perspective on, this is my story of farming, and I'm proud of it. And again, as I say, as I learn more editing and stuff like that too, I hope the videos will become more fruitful. It'll hold other people's attention. But for those of you that are either farming or interested in it, or just kind of want to see, you know, what I do on a daily basis, I thank you guys for that. You know, just thank you for checking in, stopping, seeing what I do. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd definitely be interested in any comments that you guys have as well too. If you like my videos, share them with some friends or people that you know. We're small right now, so we're still growing in terms of a YouTube channel. But I'm really excited because it's something kind of to do in the downtime in the winter, and I'm able to keep going through it. And it's been fun so far, so I'll keep going with it. And hopefully by the spring, I'm gonna be really good at this stuff. That's the goal. As we enter the covered up barns, again, I cover the entrances to prevent bleaching and weathering inside the barns, keeps the bales nice and green. Good stuff. Wanted to show you guys the pole barn. This is one that my dad built. It's all out of telephone poles, 2x6s, 4x4s on the tops, and then sheet metal around here. All of these poles, I can't remember how far down they go down, but I remember digging really big holes for each one of these. And then we stuffed in a bunch of just big heavy rocks, you know, 8-inch, 12-inch rocks in there, line the outside, and then put smaller rocks inside after that, and then load the whole thing down with Quickcrete. So we used to make the Quickcrete in the wheelbarrows, fill in all the holes. I guess in his head he had the vision. I've never really seen anything like this before. He did it back then. And I want to say this was probably the early 80s when we started building these, maybe the mid 80s. And he rented a scaffold so we could go kind of around, go up on the thing. But it took us about a week and a half to kind of do this because I could see he was like changing it as he went, you know. The ceiling, he wanted it all to be one direction, but then in order to get more space, we changed it to where it would be, you know, lays to the front. And he knew at the time, you know, that means that the water is going to kind of come off the fronts. But as long as it doesn't go inside the barn, he was okay with that. You can see the 2x6s here. You can see the joists that they go across there. He also gave airflow, tops and bottoms. So, you know, for having something that, I mean, we weren't going to buy. And I don't even know if they really created like quality metal barns back then. So this is what we had. He also applied the same logic to the lean-to barns. So we had the old barn originally, which is the standing one that you see, the old barn. But he actually added the lean-to right here. And using the same concept that he did with the pole barn on the other side, it was just putting in telephone poles, putting in bracing, 4x4s on the top, 2x6s to hold the things. And then he added in the cement floor on here. So after all the concrete was poured into the holes, the structure was pretty good and sound. Then his goal was to bring in the cement so that way it would be a solid floor. And even at the time, he wasn't sure whether, you know, breathability was going to be an issue, if there was going to be moisture coming in through it, but he wanted to try it. Now, as we look to the old barn here, again, we've added internal bracing inside here just to kind of keep it from falling over. Structure is actually pretty sound. And the one thing I said I want to do this coming year with both this barn and the other pole barn on the other side, the big guy, is put in 3-inch rock to see if I can get circulation and humidity issues kind of under control. And if that's the case, maybe we can utilize the stack liners and just bring them in and drop them. And I won't have to use my nephews as much because it's tiring, it's hard work, and I do feel bad for them. So if there's any chance we can kind of save some of the work, reduce the manual labor, I'm all for that. As long as it makes sense and we're not losing bales in the process. So I didn't like losing that bottom row. I really, if we try it with the 3-inch rock and it still has that, we'll add the pallets back in. But you never know till you try, I guess. Other than that, guys, I do want to thank you guys spending a little bit of time with me, talking about the farm origins, the house, the other house on the other side, looking at the property, where we were, how much of the ground we're using and what we're using now. We'll talk about some more stuff in future videos. But I kind of wanted to, at least for this video, introduce the concept of using still pictures into my thing, see if that works for editing purposes. Every time I make another video, I try to add a little something different, learn something new from it. and maybe in the process I'll become a better film creator or content creator. So thanks again for coming along for the ride, guys. I definitely appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe if you get an opportunity to. Tell some people about the channel. You know, in the spring we're going to take off and do a lot of some good hay irrigation videos and all that other stuff, the true haying stuff. But during this winter time I don't have any tractors to take apart or that kind of stuff, so you know, I'll do what I can with what I got, but the content creation is kind of going to be my fun thing. And then by the time we get into the spring I should have all that down and we'll rock and roll. So again, thanks for coming along for the ride. I'll see you guys down the road. Be safe. Bye.